35 years after exorcism possessed the big screen, it's spooking us on, well, the small. A reality show called The Real Exorcist debuted last night on Sci-Fi. It follows the Reverend Bill Larson on his rounds as he works to help and heal. Reverend Larson joins us live now, along with Pastor Roger Miller and Joe Nickell from the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. This should be an interesting conversation among the four of us, no doubt. Reverend Larson, I want to start with you and just talk about the show for a minute. What evidence do you actually have that demonic possession is real and not just a psychological, superstitious state?
Well, first of all, I've been doing exorcisms for more than 30 years, 10,000 plus and counting, and we have actually formed more than 100 exorcism teams with thousands of trained people. So this isn't a new phenomenon to us, and it's been around for 2,000 years of church history. Now, as far as the show is concerned, we were on the road for 5 months to 16 cities and filmed 16 different episodes. And these people were very carefully vetted, particularly with reference to possible physical, emotional, and psychological problems. In fact, in one of the episodes last night, there was a man who claimed to have demons, and I told him he didn't and that he needed to get some serious psychological help. So we're well aware, not everybody who thinks they have a demon has a demon, but many people who don't think they do have one and need the real exorcist.
Joe Nickell, true demons or mental placebo trick?
Well, we need to exorcise the nonsense out of Reverend Larson. This medieval superstition has got to go. If we know anything from psychology and psychiatry and neurology, we know that the best explanation for the kinds of things he's dealing with is psychological. Or something to do with the brain. And
well, Joe, you've never been present in one of our exorcisms, and I would welcome you to check out my website, come to one of our seminars. I'd like to put you right on the front row.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, let's go ahead. Let's roll one of these exorcisms. This is Rihanna. She says that demons are all around, that they pass her in her sleep. Her mom believes she's possessed. Her dad's a principal at a Christian school. The dad's white. His great-great-grandfather owned slaves. So they all feel that the demons have been passed down through the bloodline. Let's watch this clip.
When I go to sleep at night, I mean, I just really, there's no peace. I feel this overwhelming dark presence upon me.
I come against the spirit of fear that has kept these women of God from claiming their rightful ownership to this home.
Yes.
Spirit of fear, get out of her.
You think you're in control, don't you?
Because you do that, I bring judgment.
Pastor Miller, is this for real? And should it even be on TV?
You know, I wish I had seen it last night. Listening to Bob, I like what he has to say. I like the substance. I'm just not sure about the style. To me, the style may be a little over the top, but certainly I don't disagree with anything that he said.
Joe?
Well, the notion, and I appreciate the Reverend trying to co-opt me, but this, in the United States of America in the 21st century, that we're talking about demon possession is frankly embarrassing.
Well, I think
science knows better. Don't talk over me. Science knows better. And this is really just silly, except it's more tragic than that. These people are obviously role-playing because they've seen the movies. They know what they're supposed to do, and he convinces them that they have some devil in them. And they act it out. They talk in a guttural fashion, or they fall down, or they thrash about. But there's not a scintilla of scientific evidence that this is demonic possession. And it's really embarrassing to have this.
Joe, you weren't there. You didn't see it.
All right, well, what do you say, Reverend Larson?
I have seen your...
No, Joe,
you
weren't there.
I've certainly seen it on TV, and I've seen other exorcisms. Believe me, I've seen possessed people.
Joe,
that's true. I wasn't.
Joe, you were not there.
If that's all you have to offer.
Reverend Larson, go ahead and respond to the scientific aspect of things. Go ahead and respond to that.
Well, Joe, you have every right to an opinion, which I respect, but you didn't gain any empirical evidence. You weren't there with the camera crew on the road with me for 5 months meeting these people in person. Now,
I'm with a scientific organization and a scientific magazine. And
Joe, do you mind if I finish my sentence, please? Thank you very much.
Go ahead and finish your thought. I'll get Pastor Miller in here, too.
Okay, Joe, look, you weren't there. You didn't work with these people. These are typical of folks who have gone every possible route to find hope and help for their dilemmas. And they have turned to exorcism as one more therapeutic adjunct to help resolve their inner torment.
Okay,
if these people are better afterwards, and if they have healthier, more productive lives, what's the problem?
Okay, then let me throw.
Well, I'll tell you the
hold on,
problem
Joe. Hold on a second, just for a second. Pastor Miller, let me bring that up. As hope and help is what Reverend Larson is saying. So, do you believe this is an ethical healing process? That this is better than Christian counseling?
Let me just say a couple of things. I think, first of all, I was exactly in the same seat that Joe was in 32 years ago. I graduated from seminary not really believing in the existence of devils and demons as a real person. I thought of it as kind of Star Wars was coming out about the time that I graduated from seminary, and I loved the dark side. I loved that terminology, but to actually think of a person as a devil, it just was something that didn't sit well with me at all. But about 2 years into ministry, things began to happen in my life that what Bob is talking about, I experienced. And I think God in His grace just sort of pulled the veil back, because there was a moment in my life where I'm thinking, Lord, I have to preach this stuff. And here's this Bible passage that deals with Jesus casting out a demon in a young boy. And I thought, Lord, how am I going to preach this on Sunday? I want to be as real and as transparent as possible. How can I do this? And God answered that prayer, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why, and yet in His goodness, He just pulled back the veil, and a series of things happened that I know was out of the ordinary. It was unusual, that literally began through a process to change my mind about this very issue. But I think it's interesting to hear both Bob and Joe talk. It reminds me of C.S. Lewis in Screwtape Letters, who says, you know, really, when we talk about devils, there are two equal and opposing sides. One is not to believe, and the other is to believe with excessive interest. And
well,
I don't know Bob, and I don't know his program,
You bring up a good point about C.S. Lewis, you know, an atheist, then became, you know, a world-renowned theologian and writer. And what's interesting, which Joe, maybe you can wrap up, because you haven't really pinpointed the scientific, which I'd like to give you a chance to do, about scientific knowledge, you feeling trumping the situation here. I mean, it was the Catholic Church that was at issue with Galileo years and years ago, and the Church ended up apologizing to Galileo.
They have, and they revised their guidelines on exorcism, but I'll be happy when they get rid of the idea of exorcism entirely.
Well, Joe,
we're not talking about belief here and faith. We're talking about evidence. And we oughtn't to start with an answer and then look for some evidence that seems to support it. We ought to look at evidence and let it lead us to an answer. You know, you can start by subscribing to our magazine, but obviously there's a lack here of any kind of scientific background and a whole lot of medieval theology that I think is very, very misplaced.
Well, it's creating a lot of talk, that's for sure. Reverend Bob Larson, Joe Nickell, and Pastor Roger Miller. We could talk about this all hour. Yeah, it'll be interesting to follow the show, see how well it does on Sci-Fi, and maybe the three of us will talk again. Gentlemen, I really appreciate the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Quick break. We'll be right back.